This is John Beethan with What Has My Attention. And today we're recording from the John Sanders podcast studio at the Carlsbad Chamber of Commerce, and that happens to be in California, not New Mexico. And I wanted to welcome Adam and Erin. And I'm very excited about this because what this is about for me is just a cross-generation collaboration. There's an age difference here. And I truly believe that younger generations have so much to offer in how they want the world to be. And the great thing about, we'll get into it, but the great thing I love about your website, after you launched your business and I went to it, it's like I saw right at the top, growth for good, which I really, really love. So why don't you introduce yourselves, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's great to be here today. My name is Erin Scheriff, and I started working with Adam about 10 years ago. We still run a fitness and yoga studio here in Carlsbad. And I'm a mother of 3 kids, soon to be 4.
My goodness.
I know. 4th is on the way. And I'm just really excited about the work that we're doing and being able to kind of balance that work and home life situation. So.
Nice. Adam.
I'm Adam Jacobs, and thank you so much for calling us young. I just celebrated my birthday a couple days ago, so I appreciate that. I'm a lifelong San Diegan, though I did go to college on the East Coast at Cornell, where I learned to really respect and appreciate the weather we have here in San Diego. I've been involved in sports my whole life. I played baseball in college and then professionally afterwards, and I'm very fortunate to have a family that's been involved in business in San Diego for as long as I can remember and grown very successful businesses at that, but also always given back to the community and kept that part in the forefront of our minds. And it's very exciting for Erin and I to have come up with an idea of how we can combine business and community growth into one application. And it's really exciting. I also have a daughter. She's almost 14 months, and it really puts things in perspective when you have a child. You want the world to be a better place for them, and in all aspects, whether it's socially, in business, whatever. You want them to be able to thrive.
And then, of course, grandchildren down the road.
Yes.
Oh, let's not talk about that yet.
Far down the road.
We're not ready for that. We are just not ready for that. All right, great. So on the website, we create value with companies and organizations whose product or services positively impacts society. And I want to mention right at the top, I asked Adam to come up with a topic for this particular episode, and it is titled Changing the World Through Business. So as I said, Adam, I don't know if Erin, you caught this too, but I'm happy for you to really just have a dialogue with each other. I mean, Erin, you said right at the top, you work together in running a business, Fortis Fitness. And I'm sure that kind of spoke to how well you work together, because it is a great business and it's very successful.
Thank you.
And so what was the spark that actually got you, that was like, started this whole new business? I mean, was it on a napkin?
You could go.
Sure. So when we started Fortis and Yoga Lux, over 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago now, though Erin and I have been working together since before that, we had always said that Fortis was just the beginning of whatever we were going to do together, whether it be a partnership, additional facilities, or something outside of fitness and yoga altogether. And right before the pandemic, we had started to loosely look at, are we going to expand? Is Fortis going to grow? Are there other areas or demographics that fit what we're trying to do? And then the pandemic hit, and then we were like, this is not the time to even think about expanding a fitness or yoga studio. But we've always both had the priority to give back to the community. And even using the platform we had at Fortis and Yoga Lux, we always did things that gave back, whether it was hosted food drives, did donation-based classes, and so many other things that we've done there. We used that platform to do good. And we always believed that if you're a business in a community, your job is not to take people's money. It's to be part of that community and to grow and to flourish as a member of that community. So we've always had that priority, and we were like, okay, the pandemic gave us this opportunity to step out of the day-to-day operation of Fortis and Yoga Lux, turn that over to some of our employees that we've had since we've opened, which is, I don't want to brag, but like kudos
do brag.
kudos to us. Like, it's, especially in this day and age, it's hard to keep employees for that long, but we've had some very loyal employees who've deserved to be there as long as they have. And it was time for them to step up and shine and take over more of the day-to-day operations and grow themselves. So I'm very proud that we were able to do that, first of all. But it allowed us to step back and think about what we wanted to do next. And we did do a lot of napkin scratching and things like that. Many lunches and cocktails.
Yeah.
A lot of cocktails, trying to figure out, like, okay, how do we make the biggest impact in our community, in society, in the world, utilizing some of the skills that we've acquired over the years, the experiences we have. And one thing that always came back to us was that people always came to us and asked us for advice on any number of things, typically business related, but different parts of business, because we had been through so much running a fitness and yoga studio. But even before that, we had to build out the studio. So we did like the architecture and the construction management,
the permitting.
Even before that, we were finding the building. So we were basically a real estate company, like trying to find a building, learned about how you read demographic studies and data. And then even before that, just like writing a business plan that I actually ended up presenting that business plan to my family and said, I don't want you to invest in this company. I'm going to do this on my own. But would you? A sort of like a test run. And so they offered quite good feedback that adjusted our business plan. And obviously nothing ever goes as planned. But, we have this experience, like even in HR, in things that come up. And so people had always asked us for advice. And we're like, you know what if we did this for business as like a consulting type idea? Yeah. And then we're like, but we want it to be for good. And that's where we came up with like, we're only going to work with businesses who's not just who has like a marketing budget, on the side that's like, okay, we're a big company, but our marketing budget says we want to do good. So we'll do some like community give backs, which is great. But like companies whose products or service, like we said, can literally, if successful, make a lot of people a lot of money, but also society wins, the world wins.
A difference is made.
A difference is made. And that's where we found our niche.
That's awesome. And so this difference that's being made is also, it's accountable. I mean, it's obvious. It's tangible, right?
And it's kind of a benchmark we set to decide if we want to work with a client.
I was going to ask you what that is.
We have to have values that align. We have to see something for the future that is tangible. And it could be a product, it could be a service offering, but it has to speak to us. We're not just going to work with anyone. We have limited time. It's just the two of us. We both have families. So that time has to matter. And that was kind of a big, crucial part of our business plan, was that the time we spend on this business has to be important, and it has to be with a company that we align with.
Oh, awesome. And have fun with?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Fun a part of it?
Always.
You're more productive when you have fun.
I know. Well, I've been, as you know, Adam, I've been getting to know you from a distance here at the Chamber, and it's just like I know that fun is right on top.
It is.
Yeah.
But you have fun while at work, not in place of work when you're working.
Right. Yeah.
I will also say one thing that we're very proud of with the Jacob Scheriff Group is that we want to take a long-term approach to working with our clients, which is why we try and work out some arrangement where we earn either equity or options or shares into the company, because we want, when the company does well, we want to do well. Yeah. We don't want it to be a situation where, the owner of the company or the CEO is afraid to call us because it's like, oh, that's a bill.
Yeah, so you're invested.
We're invested.
Yeah. So it's actually they're on your team and you're on their team.
Exactly.
It's team.
Right.
Yeah.
And with the decision making, like Erin said, about who we want to work with, it has to be a company. And okay, maybe there's going to be one in the future where it's like, it's just this short-term project and that's fine. But we want to work with a company that in years from now, we can still enjoy working with. Like, we've done our homework, we've done our due diligence to pick that company to work with. So that's part of it too, is that long-term approach, not just try and earn a few extra bucks with a company that doesn't align with our values. We want to be involved with companies for the long term.
Awesome. Do you have anything to say about that, Erin? Anything else you want to add?
Just that the personality matters to who we're working with. So, you said the fun part, and it's, obviously it's a serious job that we're doing, but we need to get along and be able to have some sort of camaraderie with whoever we're working with. Usually it's a CEO or some sort of executive, but we want to enjoy the work we do too.
That's awesome. I want to let you know on the website, there's 4 values or principles that you adhere to, and I'm going to read them. Revenue optimization and growth, business development and strategy, brand awareness and marketing, and investor relationship management. And I want to say part of the reason when I came to the website a while ago and I went, whoa, was the growth for good. But it was like, one thing I'm aware of with a whole lot of people's websites and marketing is that they usually talk about themselves. And they don't often talk about the problem they solve for people, but somehow you've managed to communicate the problem that you solve for people. So I actually came up with some questions based on kind of, your homepage really. So are you ready?
Bring it.
All right. So it's, how do you balance the pursuit of growth and profitability with the desire to positively impact society and create social value with your company's services?
Well, I can start. One thing is, obviously a company is very focused on revenue, of course, but part of the thing that we like to do is make sure that we don't veer off course from what their principle and their mission was, which is important when we're, dating a company, trying to decide if we want to work with them. Finding out what their mission is kind of the most important thing that we can figure out. And we use that as a tool to guide us through, increasing revenue, but not getting off course. Staying true to that vision, staying true to the values that we have and the values that our client has. And I think that's kind of one of the main things that we focus on.
I also think for a long time, there's been this misconception that it's one or the other. It's either revenue growth or doing good. And actually, and we knew this, but it's just been solidified even further. If you do good, your revenue will actually grow more. And it might not feel like it in the short term, but when you get that long-term engagement, you get that community buy-in, you get that, brand loyalty because of what you're doing, you actually win and everybody wins. And I think that's probably the biggest thing we fight against with companies that don't have the vision that we do, is that they think it's one or the other, they're mutually exclusive, when really, if you do them together, you grow even further. Wow. And we saw that. We were just at a conference in DC for one of the companies we work with, and a lot of the technologies there, it was for energy, some crazy technologies, but a lot of them are good for the environment, good for the world, but that wasn't their focus. It's more efficient. If you just looked at it from a pure business standpoint, you're like, yeah, that makes more sense. It uses less fuel. It produces more power. It, can hold a charge for longer, et cetera, et cetera. But also it reduces greenhouse gas emissions and, use of fossil fuels like as a byproduct. So that example there is like, okay, that is from a pure business practice good, but it's actually doing good too.
Yes, helping people with their health, essentially.
Yeah, and the health of our earth and what limited resources we have.
I absolutely love that. We just, at Imagine Podcasting, just finishing up a new client called the Green Docs. And they're environmentalists, really smart, and OBGYNs. So they're actually talk about the linkage between the environment and the infertility and other problems that women have. But I got to tell you, they're called, if you go to greendocspodcast.com, they're on episode 2, but they're doing good. Yeah. And Bruce actually left being a full-time doctor to pursue his interest in helping, being on environmental cause and stuff. So awesome. Question 2. Ready?
Born ready.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Bring it on. Born ready. I like that. We're doing good so far. Is how do you prioritize honesty and integrity in your business practices and decision making? And what steps do you take to ensure that your company maintains these values in all aspects of the operations?
I think you kind of have to be comfortable being in an uncomfortable situation in terms of not being yes people. We don't want to just agree with a CEO because they're going to, pay us next month. It's part of the reason that we feel we're being brought on and being hired is to help them grow. And sometimes that's telling them things they don't want to hear and making sure that we're staying honest and not giving advice that we wouldn't 100% be behind. And so to me, that's kind of how we stay true is just being honest. And sometimes they're not going to like it. And, we have to be okay with that.
And that's brave. And that's awesome. I think we need more of that.
Thank you.
Like Erin said, it might be uncomfortable in that moment, but once you get to the end result or milestone, it all works out. And I think that's where that honesty and integrity starts, is if we're not honest and hold our integrity when we're dealing and working with our clients, how do we expect that company to do that with others? And I think that's great.
Yeah, and in that challenge to them or with them, because it really is a with them, because you're going to take them through, I'm sure, some sort of realization and process where they understand it benefits them in so many different ways. That's not real comfortable. Yeah. That takes some guts, actually.
But in the long run, it's going to build trust with our clients that our vision and our long term is to get them to where they need to be, and we're going to be as honest as possible. So they trust that we have the best intentions for them.
And it is a challenge we've found with a lot of the CEOs we work with who are typically entrepreneurs and founders and started whatever company they're working with, is what got them to the point that they're at was their meticulousness, their control, their didn't have to answer to anyone else. They could just hard charge, in the direction they saw. And you get to a certain point where your company's grown to a certain size or you have ambitions. And as a CEO, you can't do it all anymore. And letting go of some of those things and trusting, your consultants or your employees or other people you've brought in is very, very hard for them. Yeah. And we've dealt with that quite a bit. And it's a fun sort of transition when you step back and see the differences we've made and the growth that they've taken on. Exactly.
It's awesome. Actually, it's related to raising a family, isn't it?
Yeah. You kind of watch them grow right in front of your eyes.
Yeah, no, that's exciting.
Yeah.
All right. So in your experience, what are some effective strategies for developing strong investor relationships and securing funding for companies that prioritize social responsibility and a holistic approach to business?
Well, I think it goes back to this honesty and integrity. A lot of people that come and try and pitch you on their business, they pitch you the sunshine and flowers and pie in the sky. But I think the way to be truly, and have a good relationship with your investors or future investors is to be honest of where your company is at and why you're either raising funds or why you're having certain challenges. Because the more sophisticated investors know everything's not perfect. Yeah. And so they want to know what your challenges are. They want to know where your goals are, but you need help getting there. Because maybe that investor, okay, they want to give money, but maybe they also want to give expertise, or they know someone or a strategic partner that can help you get there. They want to be part of the team. And I think that is probably the biggest piece of advice I could say when dealing with investors, like just being honest about the challenges you face, not that you have it all figured out and everything's perfect and, I'm going to quadruple your money next year. Like, let's be honest and realistic and transparent. Exactly.
So that we can deal with the challenges that are there.
And then you'll get you want the more sophisticated investor. You don't want the dumb money because that runs out pretty quick.
Yeah. I think the partnership and the investor is important too, who they are as well. Same as what we said with our clients, the same with the investors. We want someone who's going to be part of the team and offer other things besides just a check. I mean, sure, the check's great. That's why we're fundraising, but there's more to it than that. And I think the other thing too is networking, getting out there, meeting new people, not relying on your same investor pool or people that like to invest in certain things. You never know who may be interested in something, especially when we're dealing with this kind of impact investing. People that speaks to people. And so finding someone who you may not have thought might be interested in this project, you're not going to find them sitting at home on your computer. It's getting out there, talking to people, meeting people in the community. And that's one of the things that we definitely have always focused on, even with Fortis. We're a big part of the chamber and meeting new people.
Yeah.
And it's not usually the person you've met. It's the several layers past.
Yeah.
The Kevin Bacon effect.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. In summary, I think with the investor piece, you want an investor that, as a company, you're proud to say is an investor in your company.
Yeah.
And vice versa, you want that investor to say that they are proud to have invested in your company.
Yeah.
And if you find that marriage, that's the key.
Yeah.
That's
You have to
gold.
date and see what other projects have they invested in. Does that align? Does their portfolio align with what we're doing? Because it's part of it. It's part of who they are as an investor, and that's important.
That's awesome.
And how much control they want too. Not to keep harping on this point, but like certain investors will only invest if they get a majority control of the company or get certain voting rights or whatever. Like, how much control of the company are you willing to give up? We find that a lot. Some people will not take money from venture capital firms because they have a very strict rules to adhere to because they have shareholders.
Yeah.
And
Accountability.
so they have a different kind of accountability, and they want profits quick. They want, they have to churn that money over so they can go invest in the next thing. And so it's just a different mindset than if you go find a family office or, a solo investor or even like a certain type of venture arm.
And it comes back to that uncomfortable situation because the CEO might be like, oh, wow, this person wants to invest all this money. And we have to be like, yes, they do. But they may make you veer off course. You may not stay true to your principles and your values and the goal you had for this company. So you may want to rethink that. Why don't we find 2 or 3 investors that could make that same amount of money, but let the company stay on course and keep true?
Seems to me that might be a really common blind spot.
Of course.
Yeah. And I think it also depends. I wouldn't even say blind spot, but like most startups, for example, have a burn rate. And at some point, they run out of money. And it's an uncomfortable position to be in. And so the more desperate you get, the more willing you may be to compromise on your integrity or your values or your morals. And it's a balance there for sure. But that's why we try and if we know that there's going to be a fundraising round coming up or we need funds or whatever, like do it early before you need it from a position of strength so you can do all of this due diligence. You can talk to different investors and make sure you align in your values.
Awesome. Yeah. I have to say, I don't think I mentioned it, but I'm going to mention it again. I want to thank you for being here.
Oh, our pleasure.
Yeah.
No, this is awesome. I really love it. So can you share an example? I mean, I know it's a fairly young company, but can you share an example of a time when you helped a company or organization optimize revenue and growth while also making a meaningful contribution to society or the environment? I know you're young.
Yeah, most of the companies we're working with are startups. They're not even really at the revenue.
Okay.
They're still in the development stage, which is kind of by choice. We're trying to work with earlier companies. We have a bigger, we could make a bigger
Impact.
Impact, yeah.
On a company starting earlier. And so that's kind of really been our focus.
Yeah, and it really depends on where the company is. And certain companies, like, their goal is to make a product and turn that into a revenue stream, and that's their company. Others, and that's what we see a lot of now in, they never actually make a revenue stream or profits, but you grow a certain technology and then sell a piece or get investors. And, like, think about some of the big names we know, like, haven't turned a profit yet, but they, went public and are trading and whatever. So I think a lot of it is currently what we've done with revenue optimization is working on the strategy to get there and what that looks like and how we want those streams to start, what it takes to, start building out that revenue stream.
And what revenue model will they use? We're at that kind of forming this now. It's not quite there yet, so we get to help create, how they will make profits.
Mm-hmm.
Do you build out the whole sales team in-house and sell it yourself, for example, or do you partner with a company that already has the infrastructure in place? So maybe you don't get to keep as much of the margin, but you don't have to build out this whole team and learn
Less
the learning
risk.
curve,
Yeah.
Those types of decisions and analysis is what we've mostly been focusing on as an example for many of the companies we work
That's really
with.
great. And I'm learning a lot here just sitting here listening. I want to appreciate you again.
Oh, thank you.
So how do you think companies and organizations can effectively communicate their commitment to social responsibility and creating value for society through their branding and marketing efforts?
We said before transparency. I think that's a big part of it. Being transparent in the objectives of the company, what they want to do, what kind of change makers do they want to be, just getting it out there.
And I think admitting to your mistakes, like companies try and cover up things that they've done instead of being like, hey, 10 years ago, we thought this was the right move and it actually ended up being, detrimental.
People respect that.
Yeah. If you're a consumer, you're going to be like, okay, you admitted it instead of like tried to like weasel around it.
Yeah,
like,
PR their way out of it.
Yeah. Like,
PR their way out of
look,
it. Yeah.
I think with the proliferation of the internet and people's access to information, the consumers are smarter now.
Yeah.
And they see right through all that. So just be upfront about the mistakes you've made. Like, go above and beyond. It might cost you a little bit more if you have to like fix something now, but it won't kill you. I always think about the story of like the Tylenol way back in the day where they found that like a few of their jars were punctured.
Yes.
And they recalled every Tylenol bottle in the whole country, even though they didn't need to. And people respected that. It probably cost them a fortune, but you respect that if there was any risk at all, we're pulling it all off the shelves. Now you hear about like companies that are like, oh, there's an issue. We'll recall like, one or two things.
Yeah.
And then you like more and more keep coming out. It's like,
yeah, snowballs. You could have just dealt with it all up front
do the right
and saved
thing.
yourself. But.
Admit that you made a mistake or that there was an issue. Do the right thing, and it'll come back.
It could be the meaning of if you're still in business or not, I would think. For the reasons you gave, which is people are just a whole lot smarter.
I think so. And I think you have to respect the consumer more now than in the past.
Yeah. All right. So let me ask you, what else would you like to cover? I mean, the title of this is Changing the World Through Business. You want to talk about the world, business, or through?
The world's a scary place. I don't know.
Yeah,
I know.
That's another episode.
Yeah,
for sure.
exactly. I think just, Adam kind of touched on this earlier, but revenue and doing good doesn't, can go hand in hand, and keeping that in mind in business and trying to, you can't always make the right decision, but if you're kind of using your moral compass as, your guiding light, then, I think it gets easier to do the right thing and stay on course and still have a profitable business.
Yeah, to that point, what we noticed is a lot of people we've spoken with, they're like, okay, business does business and makes profits, and that's what they do. Nonprofit organizations do good, and there's nothing in the middle. And that's not true.
And yes, nonprofits do great, and they're amazing.
Totally.
But I think kind of destigmatizing this like profit is evil, and if you do the right thing with that profit, if you're conscious with your spending and the company in general, it doesn't have to be evil for a company to be successful.
Yeah. I like the term not for profit.
I agree. I actually really like the term for purpose better than both of those.
Yeah.
Because it's a positive affirmation, not a not or a negative.
It makes profit sound negative.
Right. The other thing that's always resonated with me is remembering that when you're a business, it's not just about your shareholders, but it's about the stakeholders in your business. So if you're a company that manufactures a product, where do some of those inputs that you're creating come from? What are those communities experiencing because of your product or service? The people who are affected by, the packaging, there's just looking at the whole life cycle and the actual stakeholders of your company, not just the shareholders, I think is something that we've lost along the way. And many companies are starting to look back at that whole product life cycle, if you will, but long way to go in that realm.
That's great. As we wind up here, I want to ask you each, what has your attention these days? It doesn't have to be business. It can be family. It can be whatever. But
I mean, family always has my attention. It's kind of,
Sure.
organized chaos in our house with 3 kids and expecting our 4th. So that's kind of between that and working and
that's great. You sound present.
trying to be. It's, one of those tough things right now, I think, in life is to make sure to stay present, but definitely trying to focus on doing that.
Yeah, my 14-month-old is about to walk at any minute.
Yeah,
So
game changer.
that's got my attention to, first of all, not miss it. And second of all, stay on my toes to chase her around, in addition to some of the other political issues going on in the world.
Yeah.
Especially, I grew up with females in my life, but when you have a daughter and Erin has 2, about to have a 3rd, you really understand how certain decisions that are made can affect other people, and how I'm very fortunate to be who I am, born the way I was, and other people don't have that, and just realizing the good fortune and the privilege that I have and others may not, even if other people don't realize it, is that has my attention at the moment.
Well, we are grateful you both exist.
Oh,
Appreciate
thank you.
that.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. How do you want to be known in terms of getting in contact with you? What's the best way? And no phone or no email addresses, but what, the website? Or?
The
Yep.
website, LinkedIn.
Okay.
Either
What are we
of
going to
those.
look for in LinkedIn?
You could look for the Jacob Scheriff group if you want our company page. We're obviously both listed on there personally, or you could go to our individual pages. So Erin Scheriff and Adam Jacobs.
And the website is thejs-group.com. And on there's a contact us page. And in fact, on that page, you have to fill out a form that says how you help the world or want to help the world with your business, because we're serious about only working with companies or organizations that do that.
Yeah, that's your gate to get in.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Well, thank you for being here. This has just been a favorite of mine.
Oh, thank you. It was a
thank
lot of
you.
fun,
This has
as we
been
talked
great.
about.
Yes, it is fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Until next time, we'll see you. Anybody that wants to stay in the loop here with what has my attention, you can follow us or subscribe anywhere you get your audio.